tonight is an Australian comedian like no other. She's an ABC favourite from shows like Please Like Me and In Gordon Street Tonight, but it's her Netflix stand-up special Nanette that's become the biggest deal in comedy. Having been praised all over the world, Nanette has won Best Show at the Adelaide, Melbourne, Edinburgh and Montreal comedy festivals. It's honestly one of the most raw and powerful shows I have ever seen.
I've built a career out of self-deprecating humour. I don't want to do that anymore. You understand what self-deprecation means when it comes from somebody who already exists in the margins. It's not humility. It's humiliation. And I simply will not do that anymore, not to myself or anybody who identifies with me.
Please welcome Hannah Gadsby. Hello. Hi. Great to see you.
But
it is a lot, isn't it? It doesn't feel like any of that was part of the plan.
No, but planning's not ever been part of my plan. You know, they say failing to plan is planning to fail. But that sounds like a plan. I don't know what I said then.
Which is evidence, again, of a complete lack of plan.
It's half my charm.
Now, because this is on Netflix, it's in 190 countries around the world. You are properly famous now.
Yes.
In what ways has your life changed as a result of that?
I was still in New York when it dropped, as they say.
That was so street.
Thank you. And people began to recognise me in New York, and I thought, that's not right. Because this is my natural habitat, ABC. So old people's homes and pension day at the supermarket really is where I have to lay low.
Yeah.
But now it's getting a bit much.
But it's not just where you took the show, like New York. You were in so many countries that otherwise would never have had exposure to you.
Because I would never go. Like,
yeah, right.
Like India. I love the idea of India, but I have trouble with the pride flag being a bit busy. So I was never going to go to India and, well, maybe, but I don't, it's just a lot, and
there is a lot of India, you're right.
I really like my me circle.
Right.
And I think I'd be overwhelmed just crossing the street. I've been hit by cars in Canberra.
India sounds like a threat.
Well, no, it's just for someone like me. I'm not, quick on the old feet. So, it's nice that I'm there. It just goes there.
So is this just lazy touring? Netflix
Absolutely.
is lazy touring.
Isn't it wonderful? Yeah, it's really good.
Now, when you performed this show in Melbourne, everyone was sort of saying to me, oh, you got to go and see Hannah Gadsby's show. It's her last show. And I thought...
Did you fall for that?
Well, I was just like, genius. That is the best marketing trick I've ever heard. Yeah. That is the John Farnham special right there.
Really? He's got another concert coming.
Yeah, you are all liars. But why did you frame it in that way?
No, I meant it, kind of. It's just that thing. I knew when I was writing the show that I'd be, they'll go, this is a one-woman show, because it was pushing the envelope a little bit, so to speak. So when...
As opposed to your normal shows where you perform as the Temptations? Is that...
Yeah, the Pips.
The Pips.
So, generally, when women do that, they get called one-woman shows, or they're doing a monologue. And men never get charged with that. Like, this when, in Edinburgh or in Melbourne, the reviews come in, it's like, it's more of a monologue, could be a TED Talk, but no one ever really levels that at a guy when they try something different or push the form. So I thought, well, I'll just subvert that by going, quit. Call it what you want. Doesn't matter to me. It's kind of petty.
There's a thing that you do in the show. You tell stories that get lots of laughs, but then you shine a different light on them and show the not funny side of those stories. This is a story you tell about coming out to your nan.
Last year, my grandma asked me if I had a boyfriend. And I realised in that moment that I'd quite forgotten to come out to Grandma. I remember it being on my to-do list.
And that is a really funny bit, but the whole truth of the story is different, the reason why you hadn't come out to your grandma.
Yeah, yeah. What it doesn't say there as well, what I said to her as well, I said, I'm a bit busy for boys. And I just like that. I've never been busy in my life. and I said, boys, plural. And that also stunned me.
Suggesting an insatiable appetite.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For men.
Yeah. You know, a lot of it was shame. Like, I couldn't do it because, you know, internalised homophobia is really, it's such a deeply woven and problematic part of yourself. And because, you know, it's woven into me when I was really young, it's hard to know what is me and what is completely unnecessary shame. All of it's unnecessary. But in that moment, I was confronted with how deeply that had gotten me. And I thought I was over it. I thought I was as proud as you could, you know, like just getting on with it. And then that moment came, and in that moment I thought, oh my Lord, this is so deeply, I'm riddled. And I was, you know, late 30s, and I'm still riddled with this unnecessary shame.
Seeing the show made me really contemplate the fact that you grew up in a state where your sexuality was illegal, and what, as a kid growing up, that would do.
Well, it's not so much, mine wasn't, because I'm a lady, what likes ladies, and they didn't really worry about us. It was more the invisibility of that, but it was by, you know, the law was pertaining to gay men. But that also gave me, it's that sort of homophobia mixed with invisibility, which is what it was for lesbians in Tasmania. So we had that shame, but also that irrelevance almost.
It's almost like you didn't even exist enough to have a law against you.
Yep, absolutely.
Their words, not mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you really took them on, though. Yeah, but a lot of that is also, you know, so I got, you know, I was a lesbian by default because no man would ever like me. That's what I got told. You know, so all these horrific things that you just take on board and, you know, deflect them to us on the surface level. But, you know, late 30s, I'm going, oh, I really kind of believe them on this horrifically deep level. But also the gay marriage debate in Australia really highlighted to me that it wasn't Tasmania that was behind. There's that attitude exists all around Australia, and they really got on board some 20-odd years later. And that is what, I think I could have been fine if that gay marriage debate hadn't have kicked off. And that is what triggered this sort of shame all over again. Because I'm like, gosh, nobody's changed. I paid heavily for a lesson that nobody could be bothered to learn. And a lot of the same political figures were involved in that first debate. And they came up again. The same politicians stirring the pot because they know there's votes in hate, and that is the only reason. And I was just so furious. And I thought, well, why should I be funny? Like, if our leaders can't even be bothered to lead. So as a comedian, why should I do comedy? And that's why I quit. Silly.
If only they would do the same.
Yeah.
Does it feel any better or different now that the law has changed in that regard?
Well, gay marriage, for me, process is important. You know, I think that law, the plebiscite shouldn't have happened. You know, it's a whole bunch of elected leaders not reading the room. Just going with their own arrogance and their own thing and just going, we know. And they didn't. It's so clear with the result. They did not know what, you know, those people who voted for them want. And so the process was toxic. And I think we didn't win because we had to go through that stupid and toxic process. For me, though, doing the show has helped because doing this show, I've managed to find connections to so many different sorts of people, not just on homophobia or just so many different people I feel more connected to, and I had no idea how disconnected I was. So personally, doing the show has been kind of incredible.
I'm curious about that. The show, you touch on some deeply traumatic chapters in your life, some really heavy business, and you are fully connected to it. The anger is real, the hurt is real. Did that take a toll, having to do that night after night, doing the show, and how did you handle it?
Lots of naps. Honestly, I've napped more in the last 2 years than I have cumulatively. and I've napped a lot. But yeah, I did live very low profile for the last 2 years doing that show. It's pretty much been all-consuming. I have to take a break now, a temporary quit, if you will, because I need to take stock. I need to work out what I've done to myself, because I've done something.
Do you feel at the end of it that it was definitely worth it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I really do. I feel quite privileged to be able to say that I've done something constructive. What that exactly is probably up to other people to really pin down. Even in the room when I first started doing it, before Netflix, just with the audiences, I just knew I was doing something constructive, and that felt good.
Part of the show, I think, is the greatest use of an art history degree I've ever seen in my life. You discuss in detail, but understandable detail, Picasso and why you're not a fan of Picasso.
Yeah.
Why is that?
This is a dick biscuit.
Yeah.
The thing about Picasso is that his art is one thing. I can appreciate what he did. It's an important part of the story of modern art, absolutely, a fundamental part, but it's his mythology that everyone invests in. And his mythology romanticises a deeply abusive and misogynist person, and romanticises that basically for profit. If you know, like, the worst kind of people really buy his art. Like, you know, if you look at who's buying them at auction, they're just really dodgy guys.
I get a sense that you can't be in a position to buy a Picasso without having done something pretty dodgy on the way there.
Actually, you'd be surprised. He was pretty prolific. You can pick up some really crap little doodles that he's done.
Yeah, on Gumtree all the time. Yeah.
I think IKEA do a good line of stock images.
Which is the pinnacle. I used to enjoy Picasso. I enjoyed his art, and now I don't.
Good.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, all I'm asking is, can you suggest someone that I can get into instead of Picasso?
Yeah, sure. Now?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I think there's an interesting thing. I don't think you're going to get too many, particularly male artists, and let's be honest, most of them are in the canon. The canon is a giant cock, and that's why...
And the canon itself is a giant cock, yeah.
With us. So it's, you know, you're going to be hard-pressed to find good men in how I think we really want, you know, our men to be. You know, that I'm saying. You can go back through history and go, they were all dodgy and doing dodgy things. They were men of their time. But I think it's important to challenge the way we tell their stories. And so we don't go, well, you know, he had to paint a lot, so why not hit a few women and lock them up in his studio, you know, and deprive them of their, you know, autonomy. Let's, you know, we got some good sideways noses out of that business. So I think we need to step on how we talk about these stories. They exist. You can't change history. I'm not for censorship. It's an important place, but we can't forget that he was an asshole, and he behaved in ways that we don't want to tolerate, and we do still. There is still that kind of shit behaviour happening, and I think that's part of the way we tell these stories. And there's a lot of women that, you know, haven't made the canon that we could, you know, they've got good stories. Start telling good stories, like Louise Bourgeois. She's there now, but she's great. But she had to be 80 before she got discovered. She was contemporary to him for, you know, a while there. Ignored. She's a lady.
How do you feel as an artist to have changed the way people look at Picasso?
I'm really happy.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm probably an arsehole. Yeah, I just think it's also lazy. There's so many artists that have done really, and they have interesting stories, and we're up against different things. And you know, he's just a habit almost, a habit of, like, he's an artist, he does the sideways noses. And, like, you know, there's others. Like, I like Monet, you know? He built a garden and then painted it. What a delightful man. He was even blind. He couldn't even see his own garden. He was still painting it.
It's like he retired backwards.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah, because you garden after you retire, but he planted the garden and then started working.
Yeah. Wow. That's modern, isn't it?
You can see Nanette yourself on Netflix. Would you please thank Hannah Gadsby?